Is it alright for a party to a relationship or a spouse in a marriage to neglect themselves in support of their spouse or their partner, or put their own dreams and aspirations or even personal development on hold just to support the other spouse or partner pursue their own, with the hope that if the partner becomes successful, that he or she is going to take care of them or support them? And what then happens if that partner or spouse eventually succeeds but decides that he is no longer interested in you or in pursuing or continuing that relationship or marriage with you? On today's episode, we will talk about the seemingly tragic love story between Bimbo Martins Ogbonna and her husband, Ikechukwu Dari Ogbonna, popularly called Ivd. Hello everyone and welcome back to Lawyer's Case Files. My name is Joy Phillips. Before we continue, I would like to put out this little disclaimer that we do not by any means mean any disrespect to any of the victims talked about in these stories. These stories are simply for educational purposes and to create awareness. And that being said, let's get right into today's story. The love story between Bimbo Martins Ogbonna and Ikechukwu Ogbonna, popularly called Ivd, started well over 20 years ago when Bimbo was just a young teenage girl in secondary school and Ivd was a struggling young man on the streets of Badagry. Reports claim that Bimbo's family was not so pleased with their relationship because, of course, as a teenager, they wanted her to pursue and complete her education. And Ivd himself, not being in school, was no good influence at all on the young teenage girl. According to family members, Bimbo's side of the family made so many unsuccessful attempts to put an end to their relationship, including arresting and detaining Ivd at police stations on many occasions. The family also claimed that they even tried relocating her all the way from Lagos to Abuja just to see if distance could create a barrier that would bring an end to their relationship. That too did not work, and Bimbo came right back to Lagos and straight into the waiting arms of Ivd. Just as the family had feared, Bimbo dropped out of school, fell pregnant, leaving the family with no choice than to allow her to marry Ivd. After their marriage and the birth of their first child, the couple still struggled financially, relying mostly on financial assistance from Bimbo's family. However, before the arrival of their second child, Ivd relocated to South Africa in search of greener pastures, and Bimbo had to join him there later on. After a few years of doing business in South Africa, their situation started to improve financially, but then with that also came allegations of domestic violence and abuse from Bimbo against Ivd. She alleged that after the birth of her second child, that Ivd would lock her up in the house, not allowing her to go out and get a job for herself, or even to leave the house freely to meet and socialize with other people. She also alleged that Ivd was having multiple extramarital affairs with different South African women, and that one of these women in particular, who was now pregnant for Ivd, was calling her phone and threatening her life in South Africa. Following these threats, and because Ivd was neither supportive nor protective of her from his South African mistresses, the family once again sent some money to Bimbo to come back to Nigeria with her children. Bimbo returned to Nigeria and moved back in with her family, and eventually Ivd also left South Africa a few years later and came back to Nigeria. As soon as Ivd moved back from South Africa and settled down in Lagos, it didn't take much convincing to get Bimbo to move back in and live with him, irrespective of the domestic violence and abuse allegations in South Africa. Not to mention the cheating and the fact that IVD already has a child at this point with one of the mistresses he was having an affair with in South Africa. These were not enough to stop her from going back to him. As the marriage progressed and IVD got more financially successful, it appears that the domestic violence, abuse, and infidelity in the marriage also progressed. Bimbo went on to have 3 additional kids, but she never went back to school to complete her education. She never got her own job. She never had a business that we are aware of. She never earned an income independent of her husband. But she did everything to support her husband grow and build his automobile business, irrespective of all the accusations of cheating and domestic abuse going on in their marriage. Things eventually came to a head in the marriage sometime in 2019 when Bimbo, through her social media handles, informed the public of the hell she's been going through in her marriage in the hands of her husband. She accused him of physical abuse both against her and their children. She claimed that once he had beaten her so severely when she was 8 months pregnant that she went into a coma and eventually lost the pregnancy. She said she was tired of the abuse and finally ready to get a divorce from him. Shocked with the news and the gravity of her allegations, the public encouraged her to do whatever she could to get away from the abuse situation with her children, even if it means getting a divorce. Surprisingly, shortly after her statement, her husband released a video purportedly showing that they have made up, sorted their differences, and that there won't be any further need for a divorce anymore. But was that really the case? There were persistent rumors that Bimbo intermittently showed signs of distress, like someone in an abusive relationship. Some also claim that at this point, she herself developed a tough skin and started standing up to her husband, even to the point of being the aggressor sometimes. On October 12, 2020, family sources say that Bimbo had finally made up her mind to leave the marriage. However, she felt she wasn't going to leave empty-handed, having spent over 20 years of her life just being a good wife to IVD and not having any income at this point, nor financial means to support herself and her 5 kids. She therefore decided to destroy the safe kept in their home by IVD and take away the title documents of their house at Lekki. Unfortunately, IVD got wind of her plans, came back to the house to confront her, and the struggle for the documents ensued. According to eyewitnesses, IVD succeeded in taking the documents away from her, leaving Bimbo in anger and resentment. Feeling gravely wronged and cheated, she started to spray fire accelerant on the curtains, threatening to raze down the house so that IVD too would not have it. Sources also claim that she allegedly sprayed the accelerant on herself, threatening that she was going to end everything. Unfortunately, the husband did not stop her, but rather told her that she was free to harm herself if she wanted to. According to eyewitnesses, she then went ahead to start a fire on the curtains, threatening to do so on herself too. It's not exactly clear how her husband IVD got away from the blaze with only minor injuries, but she unfortunately ended up with 100-degree burns. Family members have also claimed that it was IVD that allegedly pushed her into the burning curtains. She was taken to the hospital and unfortunately on October 15, 2022, she passed as a result of the severity of the burns she sustained. As at the time of making this report, some sources claim that IVD has been arrested to answer questions relating to her passing, while others claim that he's still on the run. On Tuesday, January 31st, 2023, approximately 3 months after this incident, IVD was finally arraigned before a magistrate court sitting in Ebutameta, Lagos, on the involuntary manslaughter of his wife, Bimbo. The magistrate, while adjourning the case to March 7, 2023, shocked a lot of people when she made an order that IVD, the celebrity car dealer, be remanded in prison custody pending his arraignment before a state high court. Although the magistrate's decision to deny IVD bail and remand him in prison custody on this occasion was based on her lack of jurisdiction, a lot of netizens already are of the opinion that this outcome and perhaps future outcomes on this case may go against IVD's expectations. Some critics claim that going by the ceremonious manner IVD had arrived the court on that day, he was never expecting the court to make an order that will instantly whisk him to prison. Others claim that since the passing of his wife, he has never reached out to show empathy or make peace with his deceased wife's family or even acknowledge any wrongdoing. So that brings us to the end of this special Valentine edition. And whatever your expectations in this case and opinions on the role of IVD in his wife's death, you must all agree with me that we have to be very careful and intentional about the sacrifices we are willing to make in love and in relationships, because whether we like it or not, life happens and people change over time. Thank you very much for watching yet another episode from Lawyers Case Files. As usual, like and give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to drop your comments and opinions below in the comment section. And do subscribe to our channel to stay connected and informed if you haven't. Till I see you next time, please stay safe out there. Bye for now and see you in my next one. Thank you.